This is CBN NewsWatch.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch for Tuesday, December 3rd. I am George Thomas. Today, President Trump blasting the Democratic push to impeach him as congressional Democrats release their impeachment report today. And who's leading among the Democrats running for president to replace Trump next year? Well, the first poll is out since Michael Bloomberg entered the race, and we'll see if he is having an impact. Former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley talks to CBN News about her time in the White House, including how two top officials tried to block President Trump's policies. And we ask her if she plans to run for president herself. And we'll take you to an archaeological find in the Holy Land, an early Christian church not far from Jerusalem. Those stories and more today on Newswatch. We begin with President Trump blasting the Democrats' push to impeach him, calling it unpatriotic and a bad thing for our country. The president speaking today at the opening of a NATO's leaders meeting. His remarks come as congressional Democrats are set to release their impeachment report today of what they call the president's wrongdoing toward Ukraine. Polls have shown the public split on impeachment, with independents turning against it. And the president has consistently criticized it.
Because the whole thing is a hoax. Everybody knows it.
Republicans released a 123-page report defending the president, saying there's no evidence he pressured the president of Ukraine. The latest candidate to enter the Democratic race for president is still far behind the polls. Joe Biden still leads the Democratic field with 31% in the latest survey for the Hill newspaper, followed by Bernie Sanders with 15%, Elizabeth Warren at 10%, Pete Buttigieg at 9%, and former New York City mayor and multi-billionaire Michael Bloomberg, who has 6%. The Democratic candidates are back on the campaign trail in the crucial early voting states of Iowa and South Carolina. CBN News Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson has the story.
With just 2 months to go before the Iowa caucus, candidates are taking over the Hawkeye State with both a physical and digital presence. 5,000 campaign ads ran last week alone.
All of us help.
No question about the word of the next president of the United States.
Over the weekend, former Vice President Joe Biden launched his 8-day No Malarkey bus tour.
We're going the last 2 months here, and we're getting down to the stretch. And the time to, as they say in Iowa, the time to peak is right about now.
But in the latest Des Moines Register poll, 25% of likely Democratic caucus goers now say South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg is their first choice. That leaves Biden, along with Senators Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, in a virtual three-way tie for second.
In our White House, you won't have to shake your head and ask yourself, whatever happened to I was hungry and you fed me? I was a stranger and you welcomed me.
Buttigieg is launching a $2 million ad campaign in South Carolina this week, where latest polls show Biden holding a 20-point lead. And in New Hampshire, Senator Bernie Sanders holds the top spot, with Buttigieg not far behind.
Winning, winning, winning.
Another poll all campaigns are closely watching deals with impeaching President Trump. So far, support and opposition are pretty much split down the middle. Qualifying candidates will face off in another debate later this month, with only 6 making the cut thus far. The 4 frontrunners and Senators Kamala Harris and Amy Klobuchar. Reporting from Washington, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
The economy is likely to be a key issue in next year's elections, and right now consumers look to be in a spending mood. Americans have already spent more than $72 billion in holiday shopping. By the way, that's a new record, and online sales are one reason why. Analysts point out that retailers have been promoting sales for weeks now, trying to get people to shop before Thanksgiving. With Thanksgiving on November 28th this year, the stretch between Turkey Day and Christmas is the shortest it's been since 2013. Severe winter weather over the holiday weekend may have also contributed to online sales, and many people have just become used to shopping with their computer or smartphone.
Amazon taught consumers how to buy online. And then what has happened this year is Walmart.com and Target.com have come in like gangbusters and taken advantage of that. Walmart cyber sales up 52%.
Today marks a new consumer tradition, Giving Tuesday. The movement started back in 2012 to encourage people to do good. American citizens could be getting photographed by the government when they leave and return to the U.S. under a new regulation proposed by the Department of Homeland Security. Reuters reports the rule would be part of a broader system to track travelers as they come into and leave the country. Although Homeland Security has already been using facial recognition, U.S. citizens have been exempt, at least up until now. Privacy advocates have already objected to the proposed plan. Overseas, at least 10 gunmen stormed a Protestant church and killed 14 worshippers Sunday in the West African nation of Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso's population is around 2/3 Muslim and 1/3 Christian, but the two religions have coexisted peacefully for years. That began to change in 2015 with the rise in Islamic extremism that destroyed the peace and has frequently led to attacks on Christians. Coming up, we're going to hear from one of President Trump's former top official, Nikki Haley, about her time in the Trump administration, how key members tried to block his policies, and the possibility she may run for president herself. We'll have that interview when we come back.
Come home to the sounds of Southern Gospel from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern gospel favorites like the Gaithers, the Crab Family, and bluegrass sounds like Mountain Faith. So make yourself at home with the all-new CBN Southern Gospel, now available at cbnradio.com.
Meet the pastors who are preaching the gospel in a fresh, fearless way. I'm Roberto Torres-Cedillo. Join me each week for Next Gen Voices. And watch God transform a generation.
Prophecy thousands of years old.
We were called to be a light to the world.
Being fulfilled today. Discover how. Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life. Just call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religious he has, which color he is. This is what I'm doing.
See how the people of Israel are fulfilling prophecy.
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
By sharing their knowledge.
In Africa, in Asia, in South America, in East Europe.
And their love.
This is how we work. This is us.
Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
News and analysis from Washington on Faith Nation, tonight at 6 Eastern, only on the CBN News Channel.
And welcome back to the CBN News Channel. She is a trailblazer with fire in her belly and plenty of experience running with the big dogs. Nikki Haley is also unafraid, dropping a bomb in her new book on two top White House officials who she says tried to undermine President Trump. Recently, David Brody sat down with Haley and asked her the big question: will she run for president in 2024? Here's David's interview.
Nikki Haley certainly draws a crowd, and more often than not, they adore her. Here, in front of thousands of evangelicals at Liberty University, she has the honor of being the most requested political speaker. And it's easy to see why.
I'm pro-life not because the Republican Party tells me to be pro-life.
We caught up with her behind the scenes.
Thank you, Lord, for Ambassador Haley. Lord, thank you that she is our sister in Christ.
She's cruising through America to discuss her new book, With All Due Respect, Defending America with Grit and Grace.
You just have to lay it all out there.
And that she does, beginning with a childhood that placed a little Indian American girl in a small rural South Carolina town.
We were the only Indian family in that small southern town. I talk about how we weren't white enough to be white, we weren't black enough to be black. My father wore a turban, still does to this day. My mother wore a sari, and they didn't know who we were, what we were, or why we were there. I remember when I would get teased on the playground, and I would come home and my mom would always say, your job is not to show them how you're different. Your job is to show them how you're similar.
That parental lesson has served her well. Haley's been very successful and a trailblazer too. She was the only female executive in her first corporate job, South Carolina's first female governor, and when serving as U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, the only female sitting on the Security Council.
There's never been a line to the women's bathroom in any of the jobs that I've had. But what I've learned is if you don't stand up for yourself, if you don't protect your integrity, no one else will.
Hence the book title. After White House Economic Council Director Larry Kudlow suggested that she was confused about something that she said on a Sunday talk show, she knew her facts were straight and issued a statement, quote, "With all due respect, I don't get confused."
I tried multiple ways to get them to fix this situation, and they didn't. And when they wanted to go basically throw me under the bus, you know, I wasn't gonna stand for that. But that didn't mean I needed to make a big stink about it. You can go and you can say something and you can kick with a smile. You can do it without being hateful, and you can do it by still being strong. And that's what I've always tried to do.
Bless your heart, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Bless your heart.
As governor, Haley's Bless Your Heart strategy turned to heartbreak in 2015 after the horrible church massacre in Charleston.
It was probably the most challenging thing I've ever gone through in my life.
She attended 9 funerals, all open casket, and grieved with the families. It became overwhelming. She lost 20 pounds, and a doctor friend said she was suffering from post-traumatic stress.
I was going and doing press conferences and coming back in the office and crying, or coming home and getting straight in the bed and just crying. And I was in such despair.
But through this painful process, something happened.
That was really a defining moment where my faith changed to an entirely different level. Because when you can't control what's happening to yourself, all you have left is God. And it was just handing it to God and saying, I need you to get me through this, because I didn't know how to help myself anymore.
God had more plans for her, from South Carolina to the UN as U.S. ambassador, where she became one of Israel's most vocal defenders. In the book, she points out how President Trump's decision to move the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem was not popular even among administration officials.
When we discussed it in the National Security Council and, you know, in the Situation Room, I mean, the president didn't have a lot of people that supported it. He just didn't.
She talks about 2 people in particular who wanted to thwart many of Trump's policies and wanted her help to do it. Former Secretary of State Rex Tillerson and former Chief of Staff John Kelly.
They were stalling and stopping what the president wanted to do, not because he was unfit or they thought he was being rogue, but because they disagreed with him on policy. That was when they tried to tell me they weren't undermining the president, they were trying to save our country, that I needed to join them.
Haley was a solid no. Instead, we find out through her book that overall she's been a solid yes on Trump. She loves the results he's producing. And so it begs a spiritual question.
Is he there for such a time as this? What is your view kind of spiritually on the sovereignty of God and what he's doing exactly by putting Donald Trump as president of the United States?
Well, you know, I think it goes to show that everything happens for a reason. And so I think that God sometimes places people for lessons and sometimes places people for change. And you can look at everything that's happened, and I think we're seeing a lot of change, and I think we're gaining a lot of lessons from it as well.
So what about her? What will God do with her life going forward? She polls as one of the most popular politicians in the land. Could we be interviewing the soon-to-be first female president in 2024?
In terms of the future, I know. You know I'm going to ask the question, and you'll get back to me in another interview, right? Maybe 2024.
You know,
will we have another interview?
I'll tell you the truth. We will have other interviews.
Oh, that's good.
What I know is I'm too young to stop fighting. But I also know that 2024, 5 years is a long time in politics. I'm not going anywhere. I'll be around, and we'll just take it a year at a time from there.
And you can be sure she'll be sporting a smile backed by that bless your heart attitude moving forward. David Brody, CBN News, at Liberty University in Lynchburg, Virginia.
Still ahead, we're shifting gears. If you are like most Americans, you're eating your share of food during this holiday season, and we'll hear from a celebrity chef who says all food is a gift from God. And we'll get her advice about how to use food to nourish the body as well as the soul.
Too often, we carry baggage from our past. You know what it's like. It affects everything and everyone in our lives. It's always there, weighing us down and keeping us from achieving true happiness. But do you know God never meant for us to be trapped in the past? You can be free of your baggage. Learn how God's forgiveness leads to changed lives and new beginnings. Call the 700 Club.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5, Wednesday night at 9:30.
Tikkun Olam.
This is our nature as a country.
To make the world a better place.
Literally, we felt the earth shaking.
The Christian Broadcasting Network presents To Life, how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
This film needs to be seen by everyone.
I was in tears.
Now you can own the inspiring documentary To Life on DVD.
There is blood on our hands if we know and we walk away.
I'm so grateful that this film was made.
To Life can be yours for a gift of $10 or more. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com.
We know that every minute counts to save life.
It'll bless Israel, that it'll also bless all the friends of Israel.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are making the world a better place. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com to get your copy today.
The holiday season is definitely a time when Americans spend a lot of time and energy cooking and eating together. And enjoying food is a good thing. As celebrity chef Melissa D'Arabian says, all food is a gift from God. The Food Network star joined CBN's health reporter Laurie Johnson in the kitchen for advice about how to use food to nourish the body as well as the soul.
You became a celebrity chef sort of by accident, and you sort of stumbled on this career and have done so well. And this book, unlike so many of your other ones, is not a cookbook.
Not a cookbook.
It's about your fascinating life story and your faith journey and your journey with food all combined together. And I just found it riveting. I just am fascinated by it. And you know, you talk about how you grew up extremely poor. Your mom was a single mother, and you didn't even realize you were poor until you saw the other kids at lunchtime.
Yes. Yeah, that school cafeteria can tell you a lot about where you stand in the social pecking order, and that's where I realized that I was poor.
And the people in the cafeteria sort of took pity on you, and they allowed you to sort of have the hot lunches even though you couldn't afford them, and you would work in the kitchen to pay off your lunch.
My first job in food was in the school cafeteria when I was in elementary school, and I think that the joy about that story, and it's actually chapter 1 of Tasting Grace, is that that I was welcomed in to community. There was a little girl named Katie who used to share her corn chips with me, and she didn't just hand me corn chips, which, by the way, she just thought she was sharing corn chips. I was actually counting on those corn chips to fill up my stomach, but she shared her life with me at the table. And when I was finally put on the school lunch program, I was brought in with dignity and with this job. And I became friends with the fellow lunch ladies, and we wore our hairnets together. And I was part of a community. So food can do so much to bring us together and unite us. And I think that's what Tasting Grace is celebrating.
Absolutely. And then you had an excruciating trauma, and your mother committed suicide, and for 10 years you became a heavy drinker, and then you even got arrested for DUI and was thrown in jail. And it was there that you really reached out to the Lord, and man, he met you where you were.
Well, I will tell you this. You want to know who your friends are, go to jail for a night, right? Because you really do get one phone call. Wow. But the good news and the great redemption of that experience was that God drew me right close in. And I think that that so often, at least for me, when I was in that spiritual winter, I was sort of treating God like a distant relative who I didn't want to be cut out of their will. So like I would like pray every now and again. And the amazing thing is that I realized that God had been there all along. Yes. It was a completely self-imposed winter. He had been there all along. And so what a joy to be drawn back close to our Creator.
That's so beautiful. Fast forward, you were working in Paris and you met your wonderful husband. Yes. And so you have 4 beautiful daughters. You were a stay-at-home mom trying to make ends meet, and you know a lot about that. And so you had your homemade yogurt recipe. You put it on YouTube because it saved you like $1,000 a year, and that got you on the Food Network.
Yeah, so it was my little homemade yogurt video. And by that, I mean homemade yogurt and homemade video. Like it was literally like homemade video. This is before phones had video capability. But yeah, that led to me being on Food Network and sharing the voice in food that is our normal Tuesday night meal. I love chefs. I love the beauty of food as art, and there's such a lovely story behind that. But when we make restaurant food the litmus, the bar that we need to reach as a home cook on a Tuesday night trying to feed our families, it can be intimidating. And I felt like it was a valid voice to come forward and say, here's how I get dinner on the table without spending a lot of money and with the craziness of 4 kids in diapers.
So you were on the Next Food Network Star. It's a competition program, and you won with this dish that you're going to show. This is the bacon potato tort. Love it.
Yeah, it's a real elevation of some of God's really simple ingredients.
Well, to watch Melissa make her award-winning bacon tort as well as other delicious foods, tune into Healthy Living tonight at 9:30 Eastern Time, only on the CBN News Channel. Coming up, a look at an early Christian church. It's not far from Jerusalem. It was uncovered by Israeli archaeologists. Try saying that again. And they had some help from a group of people you might not expect. We'll have that story when we come back.
It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
From Washington, D.C., uncompromising stories, interviews, and analysis from veteran journalists David Brody.
Escalating fight.
Jenna Browder.
Chose his words carefully.
Ben Kennedy.
Plan to join him.
And Amber Strong.
For impeachment grows a little bit louder.
Bringing you the political news that matters.
We get out and tell the story of the progress that we're making in this country.
Watch Faith Nation, weeknights at 6 on the CBN News Channel.
We will move the American embassy to the eternal capital of the Jewish people, Jerusalem.
As the nations rage, you can stand with Israel.
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
Call 1-800-700-7000 and get to life.
This is our nature as a country.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religious he have, which color he is, this is what I'm doing.
Support Israel in their time of need. Get to Life, now available on DVD. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
And I wish that other people throughout the world could see this side of Israel.
Welcome back. Israeli archaeologists uncovered an impressive church dating from early Christianity, not far from Jerusalem. Thousands of youths from around Israel helped to excavate this well-preserved find. CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl brings us that story.
The 1,500-year-old church is about 28 miles from Jerusalem. Archaeologists found it during a salvage excavation before expanding the community of Ramat Bet Shemesh. Israel Antiquities Authority Excavation Director Benjamin Storchin explains.
We've been uncovering amazing remains of a Byzantine church complex. The church covers an area of about 1.5 dunams. It includes typical Byzantine architectural elements, a basilical church, a narthex, courtyard or atrium with subsidiary side rooms.
Storchin says early Christians built the huge church in the 6th century AD during the reign of the Emperor Justinian and later expanded it. They decorated the church with spectacular mosaics, frescoes, and Greek inscriptions.
This church by far surpasses most of them by its size, its preservation, and its association to a martyr.
An inscription says the Christians dedicated the church to a glorious martyr. The identity of the martyr is unknown, but due to the grandeur of the church, archaeologists say the martyr was likely an important person.
We have now descended into the subterranean crypt located below the bema of the church.
A separate entrance and exit allowed groups of pilgrims to pass by the crypt easily.
This is the reliquary niche. You have to reconstruct here that there would have been a marble chancel screen to mark off the sanctified area from the assembly hall. And here would have been placed the relics that were kept in the church.
Some 5,000 youth from around Israel excavated the site.
It's super fun. I really like working with my hands. And when we come here, the whole group, we really get to bond. We get to see stuff that we wouldn't get a chance to see if it weren't for here.
While excavating here, we found something like 300 clay oil lamps that are dated to the Abbasid period.
Artifacts from the excavation are on display at the Bible Lands Museum in Jerusalem. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Well, folks, that is it for this edition of CBN News Watch. Remember, you can find more of our programs on CBN News Channel anytime or online with cbnnews.com. Also, tell us what you think about the stories you've seen by emailing newswatch@cbn.com, or you can reach out to us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Folks, we hope you will join us again next time. From all of us here in the control room and the studio, have a fantastic day and a fantastic rest of the week. God bless.